Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone on our Tuesday evening class. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim Yat kripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinim Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. Once again, welcome everyone on our Tuesday evening Bhagavad Gita class. Last time we were discussing Bhagavad Gita Chapter 3, text number 1 to 6 we covered, which start with Arjuna's question. He tells Krishna that I'm confused. On one side you say work with intelligence, on other side you're asking me to fight. So please tell me for sure, what should I do? Should I work with intelligence? Working with intelligence in Arjuna's view is Jnana Yoga, knowledge, and knowledge ultimately leads to renunciation, Vairagya. So should I renounce everything, go to forest, or should I fight? So please tell me, what should I do? I'm confused. So Lord Krishna start instructing that one should work without attachment to the result. So the real renunciation is not renunciation of work, but renunciation of the result of one's work. So working with that spirit without attachment to the result. And then Krishna talk about hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is somebody who act like someone, but inside he has a different mindset. Somebody artificially renounces something, but internally he is meditating on sense enjoyment. That is hypocrisy. And another definition of hypocrisy, we said, accepting a position without accepting the sacrifice, the responsibility which come for that position, right? So just trying to wear a dress of a sannyasi, saffron clothes, and with the desire to accept the honor, the service from others, but without the responsibility of guiding others, without cultivating others, that is hypocrisy. So that is what we discussed up to text number 6. Now text number 7, Krishna continues further. So text number 7 is Yastva indriyani manasa niyamarabhate arjuna karmendriya karma yogam asakta sa vishishyate. So in previous verse, Krishna talked about hypocrisy. In this verse, Krishna says, on the other hand, if one regulates the senses with the mind and start to engage the senses in karma yoga, karmendriya karma yogam, asakta sa vishishyate. So when somebody regulates the senses with the help of mind and start to engage the karmendriya, the working senses, in karma yoga without attachment, he is far better. Sah vishishyate. So what Krishna is recommending here is for positive engagement rather than false renunciation. So positive engagement of senses is far better than false renunciation. Generally, people sometimes take to the path of renunciation because of so much trouble in life. Right? Sometimes they think, oh, activity leads to bondage because any karma in this world will bring in reaction. So if I want to cut down bondage means I have to stop working altogether. Better no work. So no work, no reaction. Problem solved. But Krishna says, no, it doesn't work like that. Even if you don't work based on your duty, still everybody is bound to work. Everybody is forced to work. So people relate their suffering in this material world because of any activity in the world. And before that understanding, many people think, oh, suffering is caused by God. Why does God give suffering? Why is God giving me so much suffering? For those people, the answer is they should understand actually the suffering is not given by God. Suffering is actually caused by our own activities, by our own choices. God wants the best for everyone, right? He is the well-wisher of everyone. He is the father, mother for everyone. So a loving father, a loving mother, can they wish anything bad for their child? No. A mother always wants the best for her child. So when the child goes to school, mother packs nice lunch for the child so that he can have the nutritious food in school, the home cooked, nice, healthy food. But if the child, he drops that lunch box and spoils all the food, whatever was packed by the mother, and maybe he has to now stay hungry or he doesn't have proper food to eat. So whose fault is that? That's not mother's fault. Mother had packed the nice lunch, but it's child who spoiled that lunch. So same way, God, he wants best for everyone. He has arranged everything nicely for us, but we mess up in this world based on our wrong actions, our wrong choices, and that becomes the cause of suffering. So ultimately, yes, it's our activity which is the cause of suffering, but one should not think that, oh, I will not do any activity at all, and in that way I can avoid suffering. Because Krishna said everybody has to act, right? Even the birds, the animals, they also are doing certain activity. Even though they are not building their new karma, they are exhausting the current karma, but based on the previous quota of karma, they also have to continue to exist in different life forms. So then one may say that, okay, I will go away from sense objects so that I do not fall prey to Maya. Ultimately, the senses are attracted to the sense object, so I will just leave everything, go away, and not become victim of Maya. So to some extent, yes, that is true that we need to avoid the contact with sense objects. As we say, out of sight, out of mind. So to some extent, that is true. But many times what happens is most of time the out of sight makes object more in mind rather than out of mind. Example is somebody who's a chain smoker or a drunkard person, right? A alcoholic person. More they try to stay away from cigarette altogether, cut down the smoking and drinking, right? When they stop, um, when they try to stop giving up these habits. So what happens is when they stay away from that, more it is in their mind. They're constantly thinking about it, thinking about it, thinking about it. So it's not about just being away from the sense object, but some level of detachment has to be there. One need to develop some level of detachment with proper intelligence. And that's where the regulation comes in picture. So Krishna is saying controlling the senses with the help of mind. By regulating the senses with the help of mind, one need to engage the senses in karma yoga. So the regulative principles are very important. Regulative principle is, let's say we talk about our regulative principle. no meat eating. So regulative principle doesn't say no eating, right? It says no meat eating or not eating kind of outside food. Principle is okay, eat only Krishna Prasad. That is the regulation. That is the discipline. So here Prabhupada writes in the purport that a sincere sweeper on the street is far better than a charlatan meditator who meditates only for the sake of making a living. The point is somebody need to engage in their prescribed duty based on their psychophysical nature rather than just giving up their duty and thinking that, oh, now I have become a devotee, I will just do my sadhana, I will do chanting, reading, hearing, and I will not do any other activity at all. It doesn't work. Why? We'll talk about that more in detail as we move forward. So a lot of people, they adopt to the external dress of renunciant as a escape way of struggle of material life. And when such people later exploit others, it gives generally a negative perception of sannyasis. Right? We see many kind of a cheater sadhus also in India, and they give a wrong name to sadhus. They give a bad image of the sadhus. So taking sannyas means real purpose is to have greater focus on Krishna. So not about just renounced people, even for us also it applies as devotees. If one is externally dressing as devotees, but behavior is not appropriate as a devotee, it's better that one stay away from such person. Now, in ISKCON, in journal, we see there are so many devotees, there are so many sannyasis, so many brahmacharis, and one should not think that, oh, maybe somebody is in the dress of a brahmachari, in the dress of a sannyasi, but maybe internally we don't know what their mood is, what their desires are. No, in ISKCON, actually, we see the standard is very high, right? One has to follow so many principles. There are so many of regulations, so many of hard principle in the sense waking up early in the morning, 3:30, their life starts in the temple, then Mangalarati, then chanting, then Guru Puja, then Bhagavatam class, then Prasad, then all day services. So this whole routine, there's such a high standard is there. One will think, oh, it's too much price to pay for that sort of life, that renounced life. Better I will just go outside. So in ISKCON, we see our standard is very high, and the devotees who take to that practice as a brahmachari life or as a monk, as a sannyasi, they have a very high standard and high cultivation, and the goal is to please Krishna. The greater focus is on Krishna. And there is so much anxiety to serve Krishna, to please Krishna, to bring other living entities, other souls at the feet of Krishna. And more we take anxiety to serve Krishna, that is the doorway which will take us back to Krishna. Right? Sometimes devotees think, oh, here we say chant and be happy, no stress. But I see sometimes devotees also take a lot of stress. Is that true or not? Right? Sometimes we see devotees are also stressed out. So, but one should understand the stress the devotee is taking is for pleasure of Krishna, to please Krishna. And taking that stress for Krishna is what is going to take us to Krishna. Now, in terms of the real mind, the real mood of a devotee, if they are really attached or free from attachment, it does not depend on the outer dress. Even a grihastha can be more detached than a brahmachari. And there is a very nice story in the life of Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya had many brahmacharis, and he had a grihastha disciples also. So Ramanujacharya had one grihastha disciple, Dhanuradas, and his wife Hemamba. Ramanujacharya wanted to teach a lesson to his brahmachari disciples because his brahmachari disciples had little envy towards his grihastha devotee, Dhanurdas and Hemamba, because Ramanujacharya was giving a lot of importance to this grihastha disciple. And these brahmachari disciples were thinking, oh, we have given up our family, our home, and we are staying here, renouncing everything. We are better, we are special. So to teach them a lesson, Ramanujacharya once what he did is he stole the dhotis of his disciples when they had hung it outside for drying. So Ramanujacharya took all those dhotis at night and just mixed up all the clothes hung here and there. And in the morning, everybody got up and they were trying to find their clothes. They started fighting with each other for their clothes. Oh, you have taken my dhoti, you have taken my loin cloth. So in that way, they started fighting with each other. And then Ramanujacharya came to them and told, see, I have done this mix up to teach you a lesson that you have given up everything, but you are still attached to that piece of cloth. You think, oh, this is mine, this is mine. So then he told his disciples, okay, I have one task for you. See, our ashram is in a very depleted condition. We are out of any funds. There is no funds to run the affairs of the ashram. But this grihastha disciple, Dhanurdas, he is having a lot of wealth. And he is not giving his wealth to us to run this ashram. So I want you to go and steal from the house of Dhanurdas. And the brahmachari said, stealing, that's sin. How can we do that? And Ramanujacharya said, no, I am telling you to do, so you will not be afflicted by any sin. I take responsibility of that. You just go follow my instruction. You go. When Dhanurdas is away from home, only his wife is at home. You go that time and try to steal whatever you can. So these disciples, they finally agreed and they went. When Dhanurdas was away, Ramanujacharya basically called Dhanurdas to come meet him. And when he came there, the disciples went at that time in the afternoon. Hemamba was taking a nap. And they went inside and they started stealing the things. There was some jewelry and all that, so they stole. And in the meantime, uh, as she was sleeping, they she was wearing some golden bangles and all. So they saw on one side, which was on the outer side. So they stole some bangles from her arm also. And Hemamba, actually, she was not deep sleeping and she understood that, oh, these are our God brothers, the disciple of our Guru Maharaj. Maybe the ashram doesn't have any money and they had to do this act. So she took turn and they thought, oh, maybe she has woke up and they immediately ran out. And then as they went out, sometime later, Dhanurdas came back and his wife, Hemamba, told, oh, looks like our Guru Maharaj is in need of money. And his disciple came and they were trying to steal from our home. And as I was observing them, I thought, let me turn the side so that they can remove the bangle from my other arm also. But they became afraid, thinking I have woken up, and they ran away. And Dhanurdas, so actually what happened was these disciples, when they went back to Ramanujacharya, Ramanujacharya told them, you go and listen to the conversation of Dhanurdas and Hemamba, what they are talking about. So these disciples, they had come outside and eavesdropping, listening to their conversation. And Dhanurdas was telling, you are such a fool. You disturbed them. You were thinking, oh, this is my jewelry. I am giving them. And that's how you turned aside and you scared them and they ran away. See, everything actually, there's nothing belong to us. Everything is Lord's property. Everything belongs to our Guru. So better we should go and give everything to our Guru. And when the disciples of Ramanujacharya heard that, they realized their mistake. See, on one side, we are brahmacharis who have given up everything, but we are attached to these small, small things of my dhoti, this and that. And here is this grihastha who is completely detached, even though he is living at home with his family, he has everything, but there is no attachment to anything. And that is the principle which we need to imbibe in our consciousness, that everything ultimately belongs to Lord. We want to engage in our activity as a service to Krishna. There is another very beautiful saying in Bhakti Shatak which says, Man hari mein tan jagat mein karma yoga tehi jana. When our mind is engaged in Krishna, when our mind is in Hari, even though we are doing the external worldly things, so man Hari mein tan jagat mein karma yoga tehi jana. That is karma yoga. When we are doing our duties, but our mind intelligence is always engaged in Krishna. But on the other side, tan hari mein man jagat mein yah mahan ajnana. On the other hand, if with the body we are engaging in some spiritual activity, but our mind is always in the worldly things, roaming here and there, attached to the world, then know that that is hypocrisy. Right? So it's not about just coming, sitting in the satsang, but our mind is always to different things. Physically, we are present here, but mentally, we are somewhere outside. So, a very important verse which Krishna is telling, engage, regulate the senses with the help of mind and engage in Karma Yoga. So, then text 3.8. Niyatam kuru karma tvam karma jayo hi akarmanah sharira yatrapi chate na prasidhet akarmanah. So, niyatam kuru karma tvam. So, what Krishna is saying, perform your prescribed duty. For doing that is far better than not working. One cannot even maintain one's physical body without work. So Krishna is emphasizing more on karma yoga than jnana yoga. Because Arjuna said, let me go and engage in cultivating intelligence, cultivating jnana. Why you want to engage me in this work? So, but Krishna is saying karma yoga actually is better than jnana yoga. Why? Because number one, artificial intelligence is unnatural, and it will be hypocrisy to detach from the work but continuously thinking about that. So that will be hypocrisy. And number three, what Krishna is telling in this verse is one cannot maintain even one's body without any work. To maintain one's body also, one has to do some work. Even when we eat, when we breathe, when we walk, that is also work. That also will bring reaction. So one cannot even maintain oneself. So engaging in work is better, but engage in that work with detachment. Again, Krishna is never saying just do karma. Krishna is always talking about karma yoga. Karma yoga means work, do your duty, but without attachment. So until the mind and intelligence reach a state where they are absorbed in Krishna, and then the physical work performed in an attitude of a duty, that is very beneficial for one's purification. Once the mind has reached a state that yes, it's always our mind and intelligence is absorbed in God consciousness, such person can give up the work and take to the process of renunciation. But in our case, that doesn't happen. It's not that our mind and intelligence are perfectly absorbed in Krishna always. So here, what is saying is until the mind and intelligence are in a state where they are perfectly absorbed in God consciousness. So till that point, the physical work with an attitude of doing it as a duty for our purification, that is beneficial. So one should not be giving up the work because of our own laziness. Spiritual life does not mean laziness. Spiritual life means more active. So be more responsible in your work. in your sadhana, in understanding the responsibility at every walk of life. Again, in Vedas, there is a very beautiful statement which says, Alasya hi manushyanam shahirasto mahan ripu. Laziness is the greatest enemy of human. Alasya hi manushyanam mahan ripu. So laziness is the greatest enemy of human, and it is more dangerous because it's reside within our body only. So work is the most trustworthy friend, and it guarantees against downfall. So here Krishna says one cannot even maintain one's physical body without work, because even the activity, the bodily activities like eating, bathing, maintaining our proper health, that requires work. And these obligatory actions are called nitya karma, right? Our daily activities, routine activities. And to neglect those basic maintenance activity is not a sign of progress, but actually it's a sign of our slothfulness. It is leading to emaciation of our body, weakness of both body and mind. If because of laziness somebody doesn't do any physical activity, any physical work, what happens is the body start to emaciate. It start to lose its capacity to work. Our muscles also have a memory, right? It's called muscle memory. Muscles have that intelligence. If we don't utilize our body, if we don't utilize our muscles, they start to lose their ability to function. That's why at the older age, when the doctor tells the person that, oh, you should walk this much, so that the body is still little active, the bones, the muscle, they don't start to lose their ability completely. More you keep lying on the bed without any movement, you will realize that the body is losing its ability. Right? When somebody has an arm broken and they put a plaster on the arm for 1 month, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, what happen after that is when they take off the plaster, when the arm has basically very less ability to function. That's why the doctor tells keep some movement of the arm, keep moving your hand, your finger, so there is some movement there, so the body does not, the hand does not lose its ability completely. So laziness is a greatest enemy, because of the laziness the person becomes more weaker both in body and mind. So the state of inertia does not lend itself either to our material or spiritual achievement. For the progress, we should embrace the duty that help us elevate and purify our mind and our intelligence. So it applies to everything. It applies to our routine worldly duties, and it applies to our sadhana also. So in our worldly duties, our household duties, our nitya karma, we should be active in that. And same way in our spiritual activities also, we should be very active, doing those without any laziness. So we engage in the process of chanting, right? So when we hear chanting is everything, only the chanting of the holy name, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam Eva Kevalam. So one may say, okay, so from now on, I will just sit here and chant. I will not do anything else because chanting is the most important. Only chanting is everything. So I will just chant. So what happens is one may chant 1, 2, 4, 16, 24, 48, 64 rounds. But sometimes what happens is in the beginning, the devotee may show a lot of enthusiasm. Oh, I'm chanting 16 round, 32 round, 64 round, extra also. But then later on, they are not even seen. Why? Because not pretending to be a great devotee, but one has to really come to that level of consciousness also. So nonetheless, we should engage in chanting, which is only means of our purification this Kali Yuga. But how to chant with full dependence? Yes, only holy name is enough, but we should chant with full dependence on the Lord. For example, when we say Krishna's name is enough, it's like when somebody goes to a big man, okay, and you ask that person, oh, please give me a recommendation letter. मेरी कुछ सिफारिश कर दीजिए. And the person may say, you don't need any recommendation letter, just go and tell my name. My name is enough. It will take care of your needs. Let's say somebody want to go for a job interview and he comes to this home minister or something. Oh, please give me a recommendation letter. And he say, no, just go tell my name. My name is enough. And Krishna's name is also like that. We don't need anything else. Krishna's name is enough. So when any problems comes, what we have to say, only Krishna's name is enough. So when we chant, we should focus on the name. There is, people ask, oh, what should I focus on? Should I think of some form of Krishna, some picture, some deity form? No, just focus on the sound vibration. Focus on the name. Krishna's name is enough. And Krishna himself will reveal his form, pastimes, his roop, guna, leela, dham, ityadi, everything becomes revealed. We need to focus on the name, on the sound vibration. That's why we say hear, chant, and hear. Right? That is the process of chanting. So 3.8, Krishna is saying, engage in your duties. Perform your prescribed duties, because doing that is far better than not working. One cannot even maintain oneself without work. So next, text 3.9. Now it starts about the principle of Yagya. What is Krishna talking? Each activity as make it into a Yagya. Yagya arthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhanah. Tad artham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samacharah. Work must be done as a Yagya. Yagya arthat karmano. All your activity should be performed as a Yagya, as a sacrifice to the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, what happens? Anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. Otherwise, the work which we do becomes the bondage in this material world. Tad artham karma kaunteya. So, O son of Kunti, perform all your activity for the satisfaction of God without being attached to the result. Mukta sangha samachara. So what Krishna is saying, we should do all our duty as a sacrifice, as a yagya. Yagya arthat karmano. So what is yagya? What is the definition of yagya? That is, we are going to listen here. We are going to talk about that here. So let's say Arjuna may say, okay, my question is about bondage. If I do activity, I will still be in bondage, because in the Vedas it says every activity has bondage. So here Krishna says there is an exemption. Not every activity is a bondage. There is an exemption. And what that exemption is, if we do our activity as yagya, then there is no bondage. Analogy is basically, if you get a thorn in your foot, you use another thorn or another needle to remove that thorn, to take out that thorn. So same way, doing one activity to remove the bondage of another activity, right? That is why the principle of yagya is to remove the bondage of our karmic reaction. That is the principle of yagya. So here Krishna says, perform every activity as a yagya, so you don't get any reaction. Now, yagya, sometimes when we say talk about yagya, people's mind goes to some fire sacrifice. There is a havan kund, there is some ahuti being put into that, and that's what people think normally as yagya. But if we see every activity, every samskara in our life is a yagya, starting from our birth to our naming ceremony, to our the first grain feeding ceremony, Upanayana Sanskar, And then ultimately the Antyeshti Sanskar, that is also a Yagya, where we are offering our body itself into the fire as a sacrifice to the Lord. So all the activities are in one sense are Yagya, which are offered to the Lord. And when we perform Agni Hotra Samskar or a Yagya as a fire sacrifice, in that also, when every ahuti is put into the fire, what is said, what mantra recited, what does that mantra mean? So when they put any ahuti into the fire, what we say, Indraya Swaha, Indraya Idam Namamah, Agnaye Swaha, Agnaye Idam Namamah, Prajapataye Swaha, Prajapataye Idam Namamah. So all these mantras, if we see, what does it really mean? Idam na mamaha. Whatever I am offering, idam na mamaha, that's not meant for me, that's meant for them, for whom it is being sacrificed. Vishnave namamaha, idam Vishnave namamaha. So this is meant for Vishnu, it's not meant for me. So we are calling out those mantras, we are saying that without maybe understanding the real purpose, real meaning behind that. So the in this verse, there's a first reference to Yagya. And Yagya has its form and it's a principle. Krishna is not talking about Yagya just being as a activity. Krishna is talking about Yagya as a principle here. Any ahuti which is offered in the Yagya, that goes to demigods, that goes to Devi Devata, ultimately that goes to Lord Vishnu. And one who has no knowledge of this, he may think, oh, you are putting all these ahutis in the Yagya, in the fire. What a wastage. You are putting everything in fire and it's being consumed, burned to ashes. What a wastage, right? When we put the grains, all these bananas also in the fire, a foolish person may think like that. That better you give to somebody, poor person, they can eat. Why to turn it into ashes? But the intelligent person knows that when we are offering it into the fire, that is as a sacrifice to the Lord. We are offering it to the Lord. It's not that it's just burning to ashes. And one is receiving that spiritual credit, that pious credit there. So the yagya has to be performed as a sacrifice to the Lord. And that will cause freedom from any bondage in this material world. So in the yagya, in the activity of yagya also, and in journal in principle also, the mood should be, I am not the doer, I am not the enjoyer, I am not the proprietor. Later it will come in 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says that I am Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwara. I am the enjoyer of everything. I am the controller of everything. One who knows that, one who knows me to be their real well-wisher, that person can attain real peace. So one should not think himself to be the doer or the enjoyer. And there is another very beautiful story actually, if you want to listen. In Lord Ramachandra's lineage, in the previous ancestors of Lord Ramachandra, there is a king named Raghu, right? That's why we call Raghukul or Raghuvamsha. So there is a king Raghu. Once he performed a yagya, very elaborate yagya, and the principle of that yagya was, so he did a Vishwajit yagya. What his mindset was, that as the clouds they gather all the water from earth, not for their own enjoyment, but then later they shower it back on earth. So same way, whatever I have acquired from my citizens, whatever I have gathered from the public in taxes, it's not for my pleasure, but for the pleasure of God. And for I should return it back to all my citizens. So he decided to use his wealth to please God by serving his citizens with it. So he performed this whole yagya. After the yagya, he donated all the possessions to his citizens. and he just put a clothes of a beggar and holding a earthen pot, a clay pot. He just went out. He gave up everything. He just went out to beg for his meal. He had nothing left. So as he was on the streets, once he was resting under a tree, and there were some other peoples around, he heard a group of people discussing, "Oh, our king is so great. Our king is so benevolent. He has given away everything in charity." And as Maharaj Raghu heard this, he could not tolerate, actually. He was pained by hearing his praise, and he spoke out, not kind of revealing himself that I am the king, I am King Raghu, but he started telling, "What are you discussing about?" So he asked those people. They said, "We are praising our king. There is nobody in the world who is more charitable than him." And Raghu again told, "Don't ever say that again. He has nothing." And then all the people said, "Oh, what kind of person are you? You are criticizing our king?" Everybody knows that Raghu Maharaj is so wonderful. He has donated everything, whatever he had. And Raghu Maharaj told those people, "Go ask your king." Then when he came into this world, what did he possess? He was born empty handed, isn't it? So he did not bring anything with him. He just acquired from here. And what he has given away also is not his. Then what was his that he had given away? So Raghu Maharaj had a very clear idea that I have not brought anything with me. I cannot take anything with me. Everything I acquired from here, everything will remain here. And everything should be utilized in the service of Krishna and in the service of the people. So that is the principle of Yagya. So Krishna here is saying Yagya arthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. Do every activity as a sacrifice for the Lord. Otherwise, the work causes bondage in this material world. So the purpose of our Varnashram Dharma also is basically to satisfy the Lord. So working within our Varna, within our ashrama, and one will not get bound. If one is not qualified for Karma Yoga, then let them perform Karma Kanda. That's how the gradual system is in our scriptures. Not everybody is at the same level, but when somebody acquire better and better understanding, after that one doesn't have to stick with the lower standards, right? Once we understand the principle of Bhakti Yoga, that everything should be used for Krishna and we should work for Krishna, after that one doesn't have to stick with the lower standards of Karma Kanda. But there is a gradual progression. Like everybody cannot directly jump to PhD. They have to start from the elementary school, middle school, high school, then undergraduate, graduate, then PhD. Some people may pass kind of um, leave their studies after the high school itself. So not everybody can reach to that level. So same way, people have their standards. That's why there is so much of varieties there in our scriptures. That okay, the principle of karma kanda, then come to karma yoga, then bhakti yoga. So all those graduations are there. Gradual progression is there. So question comes, how do we make our every activity into a yagya as an offering to the Lord? So sometime we may think going to temple or satsang program is my time, my activity for Vishnu. But other times are my personal time, my social time, my shopping time, other things. I need my own space. So I am the enjoyer. So one should make every activity connected with Krishna, either be it office work, your household activities, your study, taking care of family, doing your shopping. So every activity should become connected with Krishna. That is the meaning of making every activity into a yagya. Okay. So text number 10. सह यज्ञ प्रजा सृष्ट्वा पुरोवाचा प्रजापते अनेन प्रशविषयध्वम् एषा वो अस्तं इष्टकामधुक्. So in the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures, basically talking, referring to Brahmaji, Saha Yagya Praja Srishwa Purovacha Prajapate. So Prajapati, the Lord of all the creatures, he created everything, all the men's and demigods, along with the sacrifice for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, be thou happy by this yagya, because the performance of this will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. Esha va astava ishta kamaduk. It will fulfill all your needs and desires and help you to progress towards liberation. So, who is the Lord of all creature? Here it is referring to Brahmaji, Prajapati. Now, the system of Yagya is created from right from the beginning, right from the beginning, right from the time of creation. Just so, this is the process being created, the process of Yagya. That human beings, they perform Yagyas, the whatever ahutis are put in Yagyas, those are to satisfy the demigods, and demigods who are then in charge of various necessities of life. When they become satisfied, then they will bless you also. And in that way, with mutual reciprocation, everybody will live happily and progress towards their ultimate liberation. So that is how the process has been created. Just like in the beginning, um, when the child is to be born, the parents make arrangement to take care of the child. Before even the child is born, the parents start planning. Oh, we need to have this room dedicated for the child. We are going to put a crib for the child, these toys for the child. The color of the room will be like that. So they start making all these plannings to take care of the child. And they make arrangement, whatever the child may need something. If he will make some sound or do something, then the parent will provide what is needed. Mother will feed the child when the child start crying, change the diaper when the child cries because of uncomfort. So like that, there is a system to take care of the child. So same way, Lord has created the system of Yagya. When he created all these various species, he created the system of Yagya to fulfill all their needs also. And when the another example is basically when the Lord sends the baby to mother's womb, same time the Lord make arrangement for the child's food also, the baby's food also through mother's breast. That is also Lord's arrangement. So Lord has arranged for all the needs of the living entities. So for human being also, the Supreme Lord provides all the needs, but the human beings are given higher intelligence to perform their responsibility. So basically, Lord is providing the needs for everybody, all the species of life. He is taking care of the need of an ant also. He is taking care of the need of an elephant also. But for human beings especially, he has given higher intelligence so that they can also perform their responsibility. So this system of yagya is meant for human beings. If the human being do not perform this yagya, or basically acting responsibly, then they are not at the level of humans. Then they are at the level of animals. So the purpose of creation is to give the chance to the living entity to return back to the kingdom of God by understanding their responsibility and executing that responsibility. And the ultimate purpose of this human form of life is to attain liberation. So in text 11, this 10 and 11 are basically together in continuities. In 11 says the demigods being pleased by the sacrifices will also please you. And thus by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. Okay, so some people who are too much scientific, they may not understand the concept of demigods controlling the natural phenomena, like the rains, the water, and all that. The demigods, who are these demigods? They are the in charge of various necessities of life. They are like the universal administrator. Somebody is in charge of water, somebody is in charge of light, somebody is in charge of fire, somebody is in charge of rain, air, like that. So they are the in charge of various necessities of life. Now, today, if we see, people may not believe in this phenomena, that there is somebody who is controlling these natural phenomena like rain. Scientists are the priest of society. They will tell what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. So basically, science has hijacked the intelligence of people, and it has been monopolized by atheists. So if you are scientific, oh, you cannot believe in existence of soul. If you are scientific, you cannot believe in existence of God. So, or does it mean all the scientists are atheists? No, there are a lot of scientists who believe in God, and they use the technology to contribute something good for the society. But many scientists, they are kind of upright atheist. So science, basically, if we really see, is a map. Map doesn't tell what is good or what is bad, where to go, why to go, but map only tells how to go. So same way, science is simply a tool which can look at the material things. It can either prove or disapprove the existence of God, but by inference, we can prove the existence of God. Right? But there are so many common sense things, so many basic inferences where we can, with which we can prove the existence of soul, we can prove the existence of God. So science can tell us how things happen. Science doesn't tell us why things happen. So science can tell us how the rain falls. It will explain, oh, the water becomes evaporated due to the sunlight, then it condenses as cloud, and then there is rain. When there is condensation in the cloud, and that's how the rain falls. So everything is happening naturally. Where is Indra in the picture? Who is Indra? But yes, there is a natural phenomena there, but there is a system. For something automatic to be functioning, it does not prove the non-existence of somebody who has created that automatic functionality. So it's basically a miracle how the cloud is created, how the cloud travels from one place to another place with so much water, with so much of millions of gallon of water. It's like a mobile water tank. It's just like an aircraft. In an aircraft, if something collides, the aircraft will blast. But in the cloud, so many aircrafts pass through the cloud also. Still, it does not burst. And nobody can try to create a cloud in their laboratory by making the water evaporate and then make into a cloud. So in our um, school time, there used to be science fairs, and in that they will try to demonstrate this cloud making, the rain process. In the lab, how much of a big cloud can you form? And they may try to show some water evaporation with condensation, it falling back or uh, condensing down as drops of water, but really they cannot show a big cloud forming in the sky in the room and then cloud shower happening. They can show that in a very controlled controlled environment, in the sense in some container or something where a perfect temperature pressure is maintained. So science can explain, oh yes, this is how this process is happening, but why is it happening, who is controlling this process, they cannot explain. Now, artificial, there is a concept of artificial rain also. Artificial rains, imaginary gains, ultimately it leads to real pains. So there are already cloud in the sky, What artificial rain means, the condensation of the cloud is not happening. So they pour some chemicals into that cloud, which causes the cloud seeding. So the cloud seeding is done. And in that case, then the condensation happen and rain falls. Ultimately, if we see, that is just a manipulation. So not accepting the existence of God who has created that automatic phenomena, but trying to control everything ourselves, it's like a manipulation. It's just like the gang of thief who are looking for a water supply. They may approach the government for water line to provide the water to their community. But in one case, if they just don't approach the authorities and they just manipulate and they take the existing pipeline going somewhere else, and they take that pipeline, put their own attachment to that, and bring the another line to their own location. What does that mean is, that's just a manipulation without going to the proper authorities, asking them, oh, please, we need a water line to our community. Rather than doing that, they themselves just go and control over that and bring that pipeline to their area by manipulation. So same way, this artificial rain, the cloud seeding is the same phenomena. That cloud maybe is not meant for a particular area. By the law of karma, this rain shower need to happen at a different place, but somebody want to manipulate. Like the another principle of this GMO, right? People are trying to manipulate the natural process. They want to manipulate the natural process of growing the vegetables, fruit. They put artificial hormones. They want to make the small tomato look like a cantaloupe, or a cantaloupe to look like a small tomato. They want the tomato to become like cherries. So this is all, what is that? Manipulation. Manipulation of the natural process which is created by God. So the point which I'm trying to make is, here Krishna is saying the process of Yagya is there. With the performance of Yagya, the higher authorities, they become satisfied. They will shower the basic necessities of life on the human beings. So with mutual cooperation, everybody can stay happy. So what we talked about is, if somebody does not believe in the existence of the higher authorities, they think everything is happening automatically, it's just a natural phenomena. Automatic simply means we are not aware of the controller. Automatic does not prove the non-existence of the controller. Just like the red light on the street, the red light is turning red, yellow, green, and the small child who does not understand that process, it thinks, oh, everything is working automatically. But for those lights to work, function automatically, there is somebody behind those lights who have put together that system, who has created that red light system. There is a control board somewhere which is managing those traffic light signals. So automatic simply does not mean non-existence of a controller. It is simply meaning that maybe we are not aware of the controller. So there are the controllers of this universal government, this universal affair, and they need to be satisfied. They need to be pleased with our sacrifices. And to the extent we live in harmony with God, to that extent we are also supplied all the basic necessities of life. The thing is, we need to start harmonizing with God. We need to become the devotees of the Lord. God has given us two things. I always say this statement here. The God has given us two things: dil or dimag, mind and the heart. And what we should do is, we should give our heart to the Lord and utilize our mind to understand, to analyze the world. But we do opposite. We give our heart to the world इस संसार के को तो हम अपना दिल दे देते हैं, एंड वी ट्राई टू यूज अवर माइंड टू अंडरस्टैंड गॉड। तो संसार को हम अपना दिल दे देते हैं और दिमाग लगाकर भगवान को समझने का प्रयत्न करते हैं। इट शुड बी अदर वे। वी शुड गिव अवर हार्ट टू गॉड एंड यूज अवर माइंड टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस वर्ल्ड। Then we can start to harmonize with God, live in harmony with Krishna. So our goal of performing yagya is to harmonize with God, not to just provide for our basic necessities. Yes, ultimately our basic necessities are supplied, but our main purpose is to harmonize with God. So the very beautiful concepts explained here, the concept of yagya. We'll continue to discuss that in the next session with the next verses. So I will stop it here. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai,
Jai.
Anta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
If anybody has any questions, comments, discussion, please feel free. Okay, no questions, no comments.
It's very clear. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Okay. All right. So if no questions or comments, then we will end it here. Thank you very much.